This week on The Valley.
Janet just going in right now. She's
going dark.
I don't know what's going on with you right now.
Because he's Danny Darko. Where's Nia? What do you call him?
Say you're Danny Darko, dude. You're being weird right now. Just relax.
This is Dark Side Danny at his finest.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about The Valley Season 2, Episode 9. Let's get right into it. Alright, so we started this episode with a hilarious clip of Jasmine and Zach rollerblading on the street, and it got to a point where they couldn't even stop. Listen, I'm scared to just walk across an intersection, much less roller skate through one. We see Britt, she's having her hair done with Janet and a couple of her friends, and then we head over to Kristen's house because her and Luke are having their housewarming party. Again, they are just renting, but that's still such a huge deal in my opinion to have a house. So I'm proud of them. Everybody is there except Michelle. Michelle wasn't there. But Danny and Zach, they start to talk about a procedure they just had done. It was Botox in their scrotum. Never heard of that. Didn't even know it existed, and I still don't exactly know what the point of it is, but they got it, and it looks like they're convincing Jesse to get it as well. So the last ones to arrive are Janet and Jason. Last time Jasmine saw them, they had just gotten into it at the beach, and Nia and Danny are obviously not happy to see them at all, because why would they? Jasmine does end up going up to them, though. She doesn't necessarily talk to them, but she does say, listen, to Jason and Janet, when Melissa gets back in town, I would like for us to have a conversation, the four of us. And they say, okay. They're receptive to it. All right, so there's this girl. Her name is Jenna, and she's friends with Zach, but she also happens to be friends with Sheena. So Jenna's at this party, and she is talking to Zach about that she used to date Aaron. So Zach's like, well, you should probably go tell Jesse. So she tells Jesse that she actually dated Aaron, who is now Michelle's boyfriend. She says that they dated for about 5 years. They dated 5 years ago, but they dated again briefly about a year and a half ago. And Jesse thinks this is interesting because he had heard a while ago that the man who Michelle was seeing, Michelle caught him with another girl, and that was about a year and a half ago. So he's wondering, was that Aaron, and is Jenna the girl? But most importantly, what he's trying to figure out is that, he's always been suspicious that Michelle has cheated on him, but more specifically that she cheated on him with Aaron. So he's asking a lot of questions to Jenna, see if he can sort of build a timeline based on that. In better news, though, Luke takes Danny inside because he's getting ready to plan this engagement for Kristen in Hawaii, and I love that for them. Brittany then tells Jason and Janet that Jax... Okay, so remember last week, the episode had ended, Brittany was on a FaceTime call with Jax's sister, and then Jax's sister says to Brittany, oh, Jax is going to the hospital, I just got a call from rehab and all that. Well, long story short, allegedly Jax forced the girl working at the rehab to lie and make it sound like he was going to the hospital. So, no, he didn't go to the hospital. Brittany also talks about the issues with the house, how it's in foreclosure. She's worried that she'll never be able to get another home because she'll have such bad credit. He also, told her that he's going to be splitting that podcast 50-50. And Jason is kind of surprised because when he talked to Jax, it was a total opposite. Jax said everything like it was, in the words of Doute, the diametrical opposite. Like he said he was going to take care of the mortgage. He was going to give Brittany all the podcasts. But no, none of that was true. So it is a mess. So then it is the next day, and we see Michelle go over to Lala's house. And I was like, oh, great. The two relevant people meeting up. But they go to Lala's house. Lala's house is nice. It looks very similar to Jax and Brittany's house, just kind of like with different furniture. Lala is currently pregnant, and her and Michelle have a conversation about co-parenting, because one of the things that they both can relate on, aside from co-parenting, is the fact that they are co-parenting with men who happen to have more money than they do. So it was interesting to hear them talk about how sometimes when their kids spend time with the dad, they might come back a little different because they are kind of getting used to being a little bit spoiled. So those are conversations that they have to have with their kids, obviously. Lala then says to Michelle, I've been wanting to ask you this, but I don't know if you want to talk about it or not. Like, we don't have to. She's talking about Michelle's mom. And Michelle says, no, it's fine. You can talk about it. You can ask me. So, I didn't know this, but unfortunately, Michelle's mom is very sick. She has stage 4 colon cancer. It's been about a year. She did her first chemo treatment and it didn't work. And now she's doing her second treatment, but unfortunately, Michelle says that it's spread. And Michelle has come to the realization that she might not have much time left with her mom. And that was actually super sad to hear. I hate that that's happening. Her mom looks like a very nice lady. They showed some pictures. So my thoughts are definitely with Michelle over this. Like, that is a horrible thing for her to be going through. So my heart did go out for her when she was talking about this story. So then Jasmine, Melissa, and the Capernas, Jen and Jason, meet up at a Mexican restaurant. By the way, this show is near LA, and I just got to say, given everything that's happening in LA as we speak, I do have to give a shout out to all my Mexican brothers and sisters in LA right now, all day, every day. Okay, so it's kind of awkward at first, but Jason says that, this all began at the pool party. Kristen was the one who said this rumor about him taking his ring off, and Kristen said that Jasmine told her. But now, Jasmine says that she actually never told Kristen this. But Jasmine is actually lying, because when they were at the party, this was on camera, and they even showed a flashback so we could remember. Jasmine was called right away when Kristen said it. And when Jasmine was asked, did you repeat it? Jasmine said yes, that she repeated it. So we're not saying Jasmine initiated it or she started it, but Jasmine definitely admitted to repeating it. So Jasmine, were you lying then or are you lying now? Because you're definitely lying, because you said two things that are the complete opposite. Jason then says to her, also at the beach, it did seem like you had a lot of deep-seated resentment towards Janet. And Jasmine says, well, I kind of just felt like that at the time, but no, I don't think you were Karen. And I was like, oh, Jasmine, why are you backtracking down? You were right at the beach. You were right. What you said was true. But anywho, Jasmine apologizes and they receive it and they hug it out. Janet then says, oh, I'm not really that mad at Jasmine because she was clearly just being used as a mouthpiece. The mastermind in all this is Kristen. I was thinking, okay, Jenny, if you want to go up against Kristen Doute, go right ahead. But I'm telling you right now, it's not going to end up too pretty for you. Jax then gives an update that he's ready to return home in a couple of days. So then we head over to Brittany's house. She ordered McDonald's, Taco Bell, Domino's. She had so much food. She invited her friends over to help her pack all of Jax's stuff up because she doesn't want him to be anywhere near the house anymore. He has a condo now. He can go live over there. Michelle was saying that she hates fast food, but I was like, Michelle, nothing's going to happen to you if you have a slice of pizza, okay? Brittany... she says that if anyone says the name of Jax, they're gonna have to take a shot. So some of the girls, they, as Brittany was talking about the fact that he's returning, they hug Brittany, they console her, but Michelle does feel a little upset that it has felt as if she doesn't get anywhere near the same amount of support that Brittany gets, which I think is totally fair for her to feel like that. Obviously, they're very different cases, I would say, and maybe the group perceives it as well, because maybe to them, I don't think Jesse, as far as I know, was taken into rehab and through tables and covered up cameras and all that stuff. So maybe because if you were to compare them, they do seem very drastically different, but at the same time I understand you want, you're going through what you're going through and that's what you're feeling, so of course you want some of that support. So then they get going, lots of clothes, lots of shoes. Brittany cries quite a bit as they're doing it. What I did think was funny though was that they were putting different shoes and different clothing items in different bags to make it harder for him to find. That was kind of funny. But I don't know why I sometimes get the feeling that they'll be back together by next season. Like, they're so unpredictable that who knows. But in the next scene, we do see Brittany go to see an attorney, and she's detailing the situation that she's been having with Jax, how volatile it's gotten, that he's in rehab. He stalked her through the cameras, and she shows the lawyer the text messages that he sent her while he's been on rehab. And that poor attorney's like, whoa, like, that's a lot. And she's asking important questions, though, like mainly financial ones, and some of this stuff I didn't know. So Brittany says that apparently Jax was so far behind in his taxes, like over $1 million, that in order for him not to go to prison, they had to increase their mortgage. And also, by the way, Brittany paid $100,000 out of her own pocket, and I think she said the mortgage was raised from like $6,000 to $17,000. That is crazy. Like, the fact that Jax is reckless in every aspect of his life. After hearing all that, the attorney says that she would recommend that Brittany files as soon as possible. And Brittany says, could we begin that today? And the attorney says, yeah, we could begin that. And she actually begins the process. She signed a few papers. So that was major. So then it is the night to transfer Jax's bar into Brittany's. Brits. This was Zach's idea. He did such a good job. He covered up all the pictures and put pictures of Brittany instead. He covered up the name Jax's and he put the name Brits instead. It was him, Nia, and Kristen that did all of this. They even made t-shirts with, Jax's exact logo, but it said Brits. And Kristen was the one who took Brittany over, and everybody was waiting. It was sort of like a surprise, and they surprised Brittany when she got in there, and I honestly thought to myself, it was actually a really nice gesture. Like, Brittany is really lucky to have friends like Zach, Nia, and Kristen. So, yeah, it's her last night of freedom, per se, before Jax gets out. And, as everyone's saying surprise and embracing her and all this, yet again, Michelle's feelings are a little hurt, a bit more, because she's like, I'm going through a divorce, my mom is sick, and I don't feel any support. So then everybody's they're kind of just having their own little conversations. They're all sort of just hanging out around. I will say it was very noticeable that you can see Neil looking across the bar, checking if Danny's drinking, and he's trying to hide his drinking from Nia. Like, he'll, turn to see when she turns so that he can take a sip. And I will say, as much as I like Danny, I do think it is a poor decision on his part to continue to drink while he is at group events with this specific group of people. Danny, at the end of the day, you should be more mature than to know if you've seen that these vultures, i.e. Janet and Jason, have tried to make this big issue surrounding your drinking. Why would you give them ammo? Don't freaking drink. Like, you gotta be responsible for your own actions as well. Like, I'm gonna be team Danny and Nia all day long, but that doesn't mean I can't say you need to be a little bit smarter and stop drinking, and because you know that they're going to turn into something else. So anyway, Kristen then talks to Janet because she was under the impression that her and Janet were good, but Sheena just recently told Kristen that Janet is mad at her and that she's been talking bad about Kristen. So Kristen is saying to Janet, we literally went out, had a lunch, you said everything was great, and now I'm hearing this. Like, what's going on? I thought we were okay. Like, why are you mad? And, Danny's sitting right next to Kristen. He can't really help himself, and he chimes in and he says, yeah, why talk about everyone else? He says, I'm going to call Ish out because I'm pissed. And Janet says, well, I'm not the only one guilty of talking about people. And then Danny says, listen. He was kind of slurring his words. He says, and you guys say that you're good with Jasmine. Aren't y'all having an issue with Jasmine? And that's where Nia steps in and she's like, Daniel, stop. You can't speak for anyone else. Daniel. Danny has had many, many drinks by now. He's not sober. Now, don't get me wrong, though. Everything he is saying is not wrong. It's true. But, of course, Jason starts saying, Danny, stop it. You're being weird. But, it crosses the line when Jason and his Karen start calling him names. Like Danny Darko or all these weird stuff. And then Janet says, because at that point Danny had gotten up and he left, and Janet says, "My husband's not the one grabbing asses." Her and Jason just can't help themselves. Danny then goes straight to Nia and tells her exactly what Janet just called him, and Nia's now super upset because why are these dumbasses calling her husband names? Danny also says that she's a snake. Nia says, we gotta call an Uber, so she calls an Uber so they can leave, which I respect. I can respect walking away, but I will say, Nia, you gotta start checking this girl. This is your husband, after all. This is the father of your children. They're trying to put a crazy narrative onto him. You gotta go full on Candy Burris on that girl. You gotta go on Emily Simpson on that girl. Protect your man. Call it out. But yeah, they leave. Then, before the episode ends, Jesse talks to Brittany because he is going to go be picking up Jax from the rehab tomorrow. And Jesse is making such a big deal about them, the fact that they made the bar into Brits because, what if by seeing this, and what if by seeing that all his clothes have been packed, what if Jax can't handle it, and what if he, regresses and he's super worried. And Brittany says to him, well, if he can't handle it, then we will know that he's never ever going to change. And I gotta say, she has a point. And I don't think there's really much for Jax to regress when I don't even think he's progressed that much. It looks like he's actually been worse in rehab. So I don't know. We then got the to be continued, and we're gonna have to wait until next week. But yeah, guys, this is a good episode. But y'all, let me know your thoughts and comments. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.